right. This is it. This is it. As the sign says over there, here we go. It is NFL Draft Day. It is exactly 4 hours away from all the fanfare and Roger Goodell coming out onto the big stage in Green Bay, Wisconsin, or at least as big a stage as they can fit in Green Bay, Wisconsin. A year from now, that's going to be us. Not Roger. Nobody cares that Roger's coming, but the draft will be right outside here with 1 million people filling up the Golden Triangle. All of that seems almost as hard to believe as this notion that in 6.5 hours or so, the Steelers are going to have, maybe, unless they trade down, a really bright, promising young talent to add to their foundation, not just for the 2025 roster, but for years to come. In theory, these haven't always worked out lately. But man, just think about that alone. Think about adding a player, and it's so much better than a trade because you don't give anything up. You're just, the player just shows up. It's the coolest process in all of sports, not just football, all of sports. You're just adding someone, and they're coming in, and then within a day or so, they're trying on the shirts, and they're showing them the Super Bowl trophies, and then in about a week and a half, they're out there for rookie mini camp, and they're wearing the uniform, and they talk like normal people, not just YouTube highlights clips from their college career and everything. It's just really, really good stuff. Chris Halleck's going to be joining me here after the break. My own final thoughts on this whole process, specifically related to tonight, are pretty simple. It's not a prediction, it's not a forecast, I want the defensive lineman. And I'm not necessarily going to condense that down to a player, although there's a whole lot about Kenneth Grant out of Michigan to like, in terms of, man, if he were to be the one, he would just parachute right into the process and be a guy who could help the Steelers on so many levels, maybe slide Keanu Benton to a spot that would be more to his fit. But I'm not into the gimmicks anymore, guys. I'm not into the filling a need. I'm not into chasing a quarterback. The Steelers feel internally, and rightly so, burned by everything that went into the Kenny Pickett line of thought. That's not a shot at Kenny. For all we know, Kenny could still become something in Cleveland and whatever, and I'm not wishing him any kind of ill. But the way that window of time played out, Kevin Colbert's on his way out. He wanted to leave the Steelers with their next quarterback on his way out the door. He just, this isn't Hollywood. Only Kevin Costner ever starred in one of these things. What you need is to just find players that make sense. And in the Steelers model, as we know it right now, what makes sense is continuing to build up in the trenches. Build the beef, the bulk. Get it done in a way like Philadelphia. Come on, somebody had to say it. Where you're just bullying the opponent. You're exercising your will on the football field. Short yardage, long yardage, pass protection, blocking downfield, the whole deal. Defensively, too. If somebody wants to run on you, somebody makes their mind up that they want to run on you, make them feel stupid. Make them feel like, wow, not only did we not get away with that today, we're not going to get away with that for the foreseeable future. That's how teams feel after they play the Eagles. That's what you want. That's what you want. Do that. It's in your control. Kenneth Grant, defensive line. When we come back, we'll be joined by Chris Halleck.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Get a good look at that guy over there. Chris Halleck. This is the last time you'll see him not typing.
No joke.
Until like about a week from today. He's going to look
joke.
at these shows as like an oasis.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to do for both of us over the next few days. Most of it is writing. It's what we do.
Yep.
We come on here just because we like you guys. That's it. I have mentioned several times that this is the weekend that we're going to begin our members only content, and it is. And here's how it's going to go. First off, the most important part of this is that you got to be in on it. That means go to dkps.net/join. Become a member. It's 99 cents for the entire channel for a month. This is like nothing. This isn't one of your regular subscriptions that are weighing you down or whatever. It's 99 cents for the entire month. You can do this. And from there, after the event tonight, Chris and I will join you for a members only thing. Now, depending on where you happen to be in the world, and we regularly hear from people who are in some exotic places, like our friend Steeler Girl, she's all the way out in Hawaii. So this is going to be right up her in her time alley, but we're going to be up late. And we're going to do a members only show after the first round. We're also going to do one after rounds 2 and 3, or day 2. That'll be Friday. And then we'll close out by doing one when the entire draft is done Saturday. So that's not 1. That's not 2. That's 3 members only shows. So we're not exactly ripping anybody off here. If you get a membership, we'll give you your money's worth. We'll give it money's worth. It's 99 cents. What are we even talking about here? I just left a tip that was bigger than that for this drink. Not the drink itself. The drink itself would cover several months.
It would cover several months, yes.
That's how that stuff goes. Chris, last minute thoughts here.
Man, I'm all of the, like, I just got done writing. I don't know how much. I think I ended up working like 17 hours yesterday just because, like, through doing the mock draft and then writing all the pre-draft stuff, like, it's so exciting to do all of that, but it does kind of feel like Christmas today. Like it kind of does, because it's like the culmination of all the work that's happened from going to the Senior Bowl and having this entire process start, and then going to Indianapolis, and then going to pro days and talk with people about how pro days went, and then talk with people about how the pre-draft is. All this work is going to culminate over the next 3 days. And I'm excited to see how it plays out. I'm excited to see, how much of the stuff that is being talked about to reporters is smokescreen, because that does happen to a certain extent, not like full blown, like we're just going to straight up lie to you, but they're also not going to tip their hand either. So it's fun to see how, and then also how they have to pivot, if things don't go their way, how they pivot. The draft is it's a game within itself. And so I'm excited to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, it almost takes on a surreal feel when it hits. When you get to probably about pick tonight, 18 or 19, you start thinking, wow, within like 20 minutes, this is actually going to happen. Mm-hmm. We don't have to guess at it. We don't have to make phone calls over it or whatever. Or in your case, you don't have to wonder, speculate, hit your refresh key, whatever. It's just going to actually happen. Mm-hmm. Unless, again, it doesn't. So I keep trying to bring this up, not to be a downer, but to kind of make sure that you're not going to some crescendo thinking this is going to be this epic moment. It might not be. They might tell you to pack up and come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's go to the defensive line, Chris. I believe you and I are on the same page on this. Is this correct? We believe that A, that's what they would prefer, and B, that's what we would like. I don't want to speak for you. Okay.
No, 100%. And that is the feeling that I have gotten from the very beginning, from the first day that I was in Mobile back in late January through now. Like, as of, like, even talking and texting with as many people as I could yesterday, I mean, all the way throughout this entire process, defensive tackle has been the priority. Now, as time's gone on, less and less I've heard about the Ravens game. We hear about that, the 299 yards. But
is that how many it was? It was 299? Really?
But
the real thing that we have to find out about that 299, we should do a special investigation, was it at any point in time 300? Because I have heard that theory.
Yes, it was, because they did kneel downs at the end.
They did kneel downs.
Mm-hmm.
It was 300. We're giving them we're letting them off easy.
Yep, we are.
The free pass that we're often accused of giving them. There it is.
Yeah. But I mean, that did unsolicitedly come up whenever I was talking with people in Mobile. And so now, granted, again, it doesn't continue to come up every time you have a conversation with somebody, but it was there, and it was a reason, not the only reason, but it maybe was the kick in the pants that they needed to be like, all right, enough's enough. We are no longer going to be pushed around up front. We're going to take care of the trenches. We've already been investing that early in the draft, the past 2 drafts. Now it's time to go do it on the other side of the ball. It would not surprise me, not only if they take just 1, but 2 defensive tackles in this entire class. It would not surprise me whatsoever.
A little bit of a sidetrack here, but not really. On the subject of the 299, I just got to throw this out there. Okay. Yeah. To me, it's way too convenient to throw everything at, we got manhandled, we got pushed around, we're too old, we're this and that. When what really went wrong that day was the dumbest damn scheme you've ever seen. Okay. Mm-hmm. The edge rushers have to come in and collapse on Derrick Henry thing. Mm-hmm. That had, I'm sure, the Ravens coaches who sit to our left at M&T Bank Stadium had to be convulsing with laughter when this was going on.
Yeah.
They're still doing it. They're still, oh my God, look, there's TJ Watt just coming and tackling Henry when he doesn't even have the ball. Why are they doing this? It's what they were told to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what they were told to do. And it was exactly really dumb. And it has nothing to do with the quality of the defensive line play. Just feel like that needs to get out in the open here.
But they did that because they did it against the Ravens at home in the first matchup of the season when they played them at home and won, and it worked because the Ravens, I don't think they expected that, because everybody plays them the same way. When they do that read option, everybody seals off the edge, every single person. Yeah.
James Harrison said it, if you don't take our word for it.
Yeah.
It was the dumbest scheme you've ever seen.
Yeah, I think the only reason why they did it was because they did it. They come up with the idea, because I think they threw them a curveball in that home game. Because
when it's new. Yeah. But when you just keep doing it and it's not working, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, because then at that point, it's like, all right, we'll let Lamar just carry or keep it every time, and then just get 8 yards here, 12 yards there, 9 yards there. Like, we'll take the chunks. That's fine. Yeah, it's not smart. You have to change.
Dave Black said Ravens adjusted, Steelers did not until it's too late. Yeah, the Ravens adjusted. It was a really difficult adjustment on their part. You know what they did? They said, Lamar, you run it then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That was it. That was the adjustment.
And then the defense gets all tired out because they're chasing Lamar around, and then that just opens everything up for Derrick Henry. So it's really easy at that point.
Yeah, I don't know. Jeremy says, how do you upgrade membership? You don't. You're already a member, Jeremy. I can see the green letters on your name there. There's only one level, the boss says. So you are at the highest, most elitist level. You're like the Ravens rushing attack of memberships. Holden says, we're going to start taking some questions here. Boys, love the show. If the Steelers actually do go and get Shedeur Sanders, do you trust the decision more? I'm not sure what you mean by that part.
Maybe
they're not getting Shedeur Sanders.
I don't think so either. Maybe Holden read my everything you need to know ahead of the draft. The best way I can put it is that if they take Shedeur at 21 or at any point in this draft, they are 100% sure that he is a franchise quarterback and a guy that can lead them to the Super Bowl, because they will not, under any circumstances, take a quarterback that they don't think is a guy. They will not go down the Kenny Pickett road again. They just won't. They have been burned by it, and it's still fresh. That wound is still exposed.
Very much so.
So that didn't happen that long ago. That was the 2022 draft. Like, it's not that long ago. They absolutely remember and still feel that pain of having a first-round quarterback not turn into something. They will not go down that road again. So if they do take Shedeur, that tells you what they think of him, that they're not just taking a guy just to take a guy, that they think that he's actually the guy that's going to help them compete for Super Bowls every year.
And they don't. So they're not. Everyone's talking about Mike Tomlin spoke about him. Oh my God, he spoke about him. He was asked about him.
Yeah, he was asked about him.
And he answered, and he started the answer by saying that he knows his dad really well. And there it went. I mean, they're not interested
when you hear
in Sanders.
When you hear Mike Tomlin talk about any player he has met through the pre-draft process, is there ever an answer that's less than 30 seconds long?
It's not. And the reason for that is because his enthusiasm runs really deep with the entire process. Okay. Mm-hmm. He enjoys meeting these young men, meeting their families, learning about them, finding out what makes them tick. And then you know what else he enjoys? He enjoys sharing those experiences and getting animated about them. In large part because it doesn't have anything to do with giving away secrets to what the what the Steelers are doing. So he'll talk about it all day. He'll make you think, that he's absolutely in love with it. But to him, that investment, the time that he spends, the more he puts into it, the more he gets out of it, the more the Steelers get out of it. I respect that aspect of it. I think they've made some bad picks in recent years, so I'm not. Sure. I'm separating this from the result, but that part of it, I think they, and specifically they do really, really well here. Kyle Mundy says, "Be interesting if the Steelers passed on first round busts and they went hard value in round 2 and 3." That the word value, I think, is going to come up a lot in the conversation tonight, Chris, because. After the first 6 or 7 guys in the first round, there's a whole lot of debate as to what constitutes a genuine first round normal year value. Whereas the players who will be available to you in the second round and the third round are seen as pretty good second round and third round normal year players. And that did not used to be a thing in drafts. Okay. It was just, here's the top, here's the bottom, go get them. And now you see, in large part because of analytics, because of the ability to put all this stuff into a computer and say, hey, this isn't that kind of year, or whatever, we need to cool it on this round, but really emphasize on that round. You can make sure that you're more focused in acquiring future picks or future assets toward a draft class that will pay off more handsomely over time. Did that make any sense to anybody other than Chris?
No. It's not a great draft at the top. It's just not. There are a few stars: Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, Abdul Carter, Cam Ward, and then you can maybe throw in a few other guys. And then after that, it's I'd say from 11 through 40, there's just not a steep drop off. There's not. And it's so hard to predict. So when you go and look at my mock draft tonight and see how wrong it is, don't come to me and be like, you guys, it was all wrong. It's like, there's going to be a lot of mock drafts that are wrong. Trust me.
Todd White says, if the draft, this is actually probably the question of the day. If the draft has so many quality defensive linemen, why would you spend a first on one? I think there has to be a belief in the player, and there has to be a belief that the player is the 21st best player in this class, And there has to be a belief that this player can, and I'm going to use Omar Khan's own words with us the other morning in that room when he said, we're drafting and we're setting up a board for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025. That was his terminology. Now, that doesn't mean you're drafting a one-year guy. Okay. What it means is that's the way the Steelers organization shapes up right now. So if you see, I'm going to go back to Kenneth Grant again.
Mm-hmm.
If you see somebody that looks like, all right, do you value him at 21? If you're the Steelers, do you value him as the 21st best player in his class? Hard to argue against that, isn't it, Chris?
It's hard to argue against it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially when you talk about building the top 21 for the Steelers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the list they're making. It's not a mock draft. It's not let's look at everybody who's in this class. It's for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025. That's the way they build their board. I can promise you Kenneth Grant is higher than 21 on that particular list.
I wholeheartedly believe that. And the thing is, okay, so like a really good example of that, like when you talk about what do you mean top 21 for just the Steelers, there could be, I had in my mock draft 7 edge rushers go in the first round. It's the best position in this draft, and there could be a run of them in the first round. The Steelers might have 1 on their top 21, and that would be Abdul Carter. And it's not because they think less of Mike Green or any of the other edge rushers. It's just because they don't need 1. They have 3. The only way you would ever add an edge rusher in the first round is if it is just a guy who you think is going to be an all-pro type player, which Abdul Carter would be. Other than that, there's no reason to take 1. So it would not surprise me if an edge rusher is in that 21. If like Omar were to take a picture on his phone and send it to me, so like you get to look at this for 5 seconds and then have to delete it, I would be surprised if I saw more than 1 edge rusher on it.
Yeah, Wandering Warrior says, I don't ever want to see my Steelers get embarrassed in a playoff game like they did in 2024. All they've done for a decade now is get embarrassed in playoff games. So I don't have any reason to single this out. Was this more embarrassing than what happened when Cleveland came here and won? So and got up 28-0?
The Bills game might be the least embarrassing of them all. Well, I don't know.
Mason Rudolph game up in Orchard Park. I mean, they at least looked competitive, right?
Well, maybe the first loss of this entire streak against the Jaguars at home, even though you lost to Blake Bortles, it was still a closer game, and that's because Ben and Antonio Brown went ballistic.
Don't get caught up in symbolism and emotions and stuff like that. They need to become a better overall football team. This isn't about getting embarrassed or what somebody says about them in this comment section or whatever else. That stuff doesn't matter at all. Just become a better football team. Yeah, Travis hits on the only subject that matters here, that in Mason we trust.
Yeah, just to make another point to that, Omar and Mike Tomlin and the Steelers don't just want to not get embarrassed in the playoffs. They want to win the Super Bowl. That's what they want to do.
Yeah, so much of the stuff that gets discussed about saving face and stuff like that is stuff that nobody ever talks about actually inside those offices. It's just not a thing. Okay, it's like, well, let's avoid being embarrassed. No, man, they don't. That's not the thing. You know, might make for a decent soundbite at a while. Jerem says, "I'm from Utah. Where should I stay in Pittsburgh when I come to see a game? Right here, downtown. This is where all our hotels are. You'll love it here, and the best part is you get to stop and say hi to us. We're at 224 Fifth Avenue. See, that was easy. Steeler fan says that Halleck's drinking Code Red. You know, today is serious business. What's Code Red? What is that?
It is Mountain Dew. That has been like my go-to.
Way too early for all that caffeine. He said taking down 4 shots.
Yeah. Yeah. So Code Red has been like my go-to soda since like freshman year of high school, which I'm not going to tell you when I graduated. It's been a while. It's been a while.
In 2024, John says they got beat. When Cleveland beat them in the playoffs, that was an embarrassing performance. It doesn't matter. They weren't good enough to get to the next round. Yep. That's actually the only thing that's relative here. It's not the degree to which you lose these games can only give you some kind of hint as to how far you are from being competitive. And that's what matters. The idea is to be able to me, I never even look at the Super Bowl. I don't watch a Super Bowl and think, what is it going to take for the Steelers to participate? I look at the championship games. I do that year after year after year. So the team that I looked at this past season, more than any other than Philadelphia, who obsess over the Eagles and how they were built, is Washington. You look at the Commanders, they were a new entry. Okay. Mm-hmm. They crashed the party. All right. Nobody saw them coming. How did they get there? Easy, lazy answer. Oh, they got Jaden Daniels. Oh, okay. Well, there it was. That's it. There's more to it than that. Okay. The Commanders put together some pretty good pieces, and we got to see some of those pieces when the Steelers played them. And by the way, beat them in Landover, Maryland, in their field. So look for things like that as opposed to let's worry about whether or not we're embarrassed. It is draft day. Mike brings up this is the one that matters. With so much draft speculation on what the Steelers will do, I have one question. How is Roman Wilson?
He's on the south side doing the voluntary workouts.
Jay Mood says that Roman Wilson got his picture posted on the Steelers' Instagram. If that is an accurate thing, and I don't doubt it because he is at the facility, that's pretty big stuff because that does confirm, in fact, that he exists, which is good. It also means that Roman Wilson is suiting up to go play for Wilkes-Barre Scranton.
They need all the help they can get
playoffs, and they need all the help they can get after that mess last night against the Lehigh Valley Phantoms.
It was rough.
Also relevant, Roman Wilson wears tube socks, according to David Harrison. Now, when we're talking about tube socks here, we're talking about the old school NBA ones, the white ones with the two little red stripes at the top.
Yep.
That come all the way up over the calves.
Yeah.
Mike gets philosophical on us. Why is Roman Wilson?
I think
Seriously,
that's
we're wasting time here.
I think that's a nod to what is it? Yeah, I think it was the Avengers Infinity War. The character Batista plays.
I don't watch Marvel.
Yeah.
I don't read Marvel.
Yeah. There was a little thing where he's just like, why is Gamora? And yeah. So if I'm right on that, Mike, let me know. I'm pretty sure that might be the reason because that was a pretty funny part.
Pittsburgh fan 412 sticks us with more minor league hockey and says, why didn't Sergei Burashov start that game in Wilkes-Barre last night? Because he was busy starting for Wheeling and not doing well at all. Both of the young goaltenders are doing very badly. People, it's NFL draft day. What are we doing? What are we doing? Somebody get us back on track. Who's going to do that for us? Let's do this while we're buying time for somebody to actually ask a draft question. Make sure you go to dkps.net/join to become a member. Otherwise, you'll be shut out. See, some people will soft pedal this terminology. I won't. You're going to be shut out of the special show that Chris and I are going to do tonight. We're both going to the South Side. We're both going to be in the room right next to the draft room. And then we're going to do another one tomorrow night, and then we're going to do another one Saturday. No, Carol, tube socks are not a thing. They have not been a thing since 1978. Kaylee says she wants to know what kind of coffee I order. Is it always the same, or do you switch it up for special occasions? Tell her, Chris.
It's always the same.
It is the same. This
is always the same.
This order that goes out whenever I order through the app, this might as well be a poster across the street. Okay, that they all have to touch coming into work that day. You know. Like the Notre Dame side, right?
So don't avoid the answer. Tell them what it is.
Oh, she wants me to actually tell you what it is. All right, I'm going to read it out loud because I wouldn't know how to order it if I had to. Because you know how you put it into your phone and you just hit previous order?
Yeah.
It is an iced coffee solo espresso in a venti cup quad shots. That's 4 shots. So we weren't kidding about the shots. Blonde espresso, don't ever get the old school Starbucks espresso, the real bitter stuff. Extra ice, 4 stevia. That's the I don't want to call it artificial sweetener because stevia is a real thing. It's just not sugar. I'm not allowed to have sugar. Light splash is what they call it of 2% milk, and it's just splash.
For decoration.
And a whipped cream, as the cynic over here says, for decoration. Although eventually, as you can see, the whipped cream makes it down into the drink as well. All right. Anybody have any draft questions here? We're really getting nuts now.
We're talking about Code Red and
Carson. Carson, who has a mission here afterwards to become a member, so make sure he doesn't miss our shows tonight. Carson, that's dkps.net/join. Here's a draft question. I love those nasty special teams players. Who is someone in the later round the Steelers might pick up that would fit that description? You know, the funny thing is, Carson, I don't know that those players get drafted per se. Like, if you think about the man, the myth, the legend, Ben Skoranek, what is Ben Skoranek on the day that he's drafted? What is he?
Gunner.
No, but I mean, but his position is WR, okay, which he still can do. Now, Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan and Andy Weidel and all the other evaluators will watch players and how they handle special teams. They want to see that. They see it as added value, and they see it as less risk for the pick. Well, if he isn't this, then he can at least become that. That was part of what, for example, got them to draft Vince Williams all the way down in the 6th round. Okay, never mind that Vinny really made something of himself in the National Football League. Okay, they knew that there was more there. They talked about various other players that they've acquired over the years and the way they would carry themselves in a combine setting. And when they would begin special teams drills, who ran to those drills and who just kind of went, oh, man. This is the kind of stuff these people talk about, is it not, Chris?
Yeah. And the one thing that when we talk about the draft being a place to get these guys, I mean, not really. You're talking about 6th, 7th round, but usually the undrafted guys. But this year, the Steelers have already done a pretty good job of already kind of taking care of that. They brought back Ben Skoranek. They brought back James Pierre. They've brought in Malik Harrison was signed, and he wasn't just signed to be the 4th inside linebacker. He was also signed to be on special teams. So they have already had that in mind well ahead. That was like near the beginning of free agency. Also, it was cheap. It was really easy to do it. So they got it done, and now it's not a problem. You're not going into August wondering who's the gunner going to be on punt coverage.
I like this one from Mike. He wants to know if it's normal every year to have such a large number of really talented running backs and wide receivers, as is the case this year. The answer to both of those, if you split those up, Mike, is no and no. Normally, we're talking about 700 wide receivers. Wide receivers are just falling from the clouds onto everybody's heads. And that's not the case this year. That's not to say there aren't some good ones. That's not to say there's a couple that are really, really good. But we're also talking about running backs as if it's okay to draft them up high, which is really rare anymore in an NFL draft since the position has been devalued, certainly from a financial standpoint, but also even in the draft classes. This is different in both aspects, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, first off, it's not a great wide receiver class.
Right.
The Steelers even think that, like, that they don't, like, when everybody talks about this idea of maybe they could trade George Pickens for a 2nd round pick, even if they could
replace him.
If you have to replace him, and there's nobody that they could get in the 2nd round that would be the impact.
Not anymore. There usually is, though. Usually you can sit there, wait till the 2nd, even the 3rd round, and get yourself somebody, maybe a bit of an attitude guy like George or like Chase Claypool or whatever, but you'll get a player.
Yep. Yeah, it's not. Philip says Skoranek is a goon. You know what? What's Arthur Smith's nickname for Ben Skoranek? I'm trying to. Dirtbag. That's his nickname for Ben Skoranek.
That's great.
Dirtbag.
How
phenomenal.
Perfect is that? How perfect is that? Bobby D wants to know that he can watch the taped version of the members only show. Yes, always. You don't have to watch anything that we do live. It's fun when you do because you can participate and ask questions like you just did. But it's not something that they're always available. Vishal Gupta says, let's say that Mason Rudolph is QB1, which should be our option. Who is the one player the Steelers can draft who can get that playoff win this season?
I don't know if that's just one player, because this team is not just one player away.
And Vishal's looking for somebody who can kind of just give you that last push to get you across the line.
You're going to have to sell the farm and go get one of the guys at the very top if you're looking for that kind of a guy, but that's not going to happen. Like if if they get the defensive tackle that they want, let's just say Derek Harmon is their guy. No, like if all the defensive tackles are on the board, including Mason Graham, and Derek Harmon's their guy, and they get him, and he turns into everything they want him to be.
Mm-hmm.
He's not that type of an impact player. He helps build up the trenches, which helps you get after the quarterback, stop the run, but it's not that type of a guy. You're looking for either a perennial all-pro at a skill position, which they're just not there, except for like one at running back, or you're looking for a quarterback, and they're not there either.
Steeler South asks, who's your favorite running back that we will or might draft? We haven't spent as much time throwing names around with the running backs, but when you're talking about the 21st overall pick, you're probably talking about trading down as it relates to running back. But if you're talking about, go ahead.
Marion Hampton at 21.
Oh, he's not going to make it to 21.
Probably not.
Okay.
The only way I could possibly see Marion Hampton making it to 21 is if the Browns and Giants are 1,000% convinced the Steelers are going to take Shadur Sanders, and they trade up with the Broncos to get to 20 and take him. That means the Broncos won't be in front, who the Broncos are absolutely in the market to take a running back. And then that takes a team that could possibly take him out away from in front of the Steelers, and then that would open the door possibly. But you're talking about him getting past the Bears. You're talking about him getting past a couple of other teams that are looking at running backs. So if he's there, I would even, like somebody asked earlier, who would you take between a Marion Hampton and Kenneth Grant? I would take a Marion Hampton.
Deborah asks, what time do you think that the 21st pick will be up if the Steelers still have 21? It's probably going to be around a little bit before 10:45.
Yeah.
Okay. However, the draft builds itself up. Look, I don't care if you watch or not. Okay. So I'm not trying to shill for them or whatever, but there's something to be said for the buildup. There's something to be said for they took who? Oh, that means these 3 or these 4 guys are still available to the Steelers. But if you're actually looking to just tune in, like if, let's say, for example, you might be watching the Winnipeg St. Louis game in the Stanley Cup playoffs on an alternate channel, you'll want to make sure that you're back at around 10:30 or 10:40.
Yeah.
The real Jets, by the way, can take a 3-0 series lead tonight. Chris was so committed to his work last night that he did not watch Stars and Avalanche.
I did not. DK messaged in our Slack yesterday. He goes, "What a finish!" And I'm like,
"What a finish!" You're like, "Wait, they started?"
For a second, I thought he talked about what I just wrote. And I'm like, oh, that's a nice compliment. And then I was like, oh, and then I looked at my one of my other conversations I had, text conversation from my friend who's like a diehard Stars fan, and he was texting me like crazy. I'm like, oh,
really? Tyler Seguin going old school to kick the puck to his stick on one motion. Really, really nice play. If you're going to win in overtime, I always say this. Or you're going to lose in overtime. At least win on a quality play. Don't get beat by something stupid or fluky or a mistake. Richard Hunt comes in with a $5 contribution and says, hey, what would you be willing to take for George Pickens? And would you be okay with it being a 2026 pick? George is not getting traded, guys. I'm sorry to pull some of the fun out of this whole process today. George isn't getting traded.
No. Now, Omar Khan is not doing his job if he's not taking calls. But unless somebody knocks his socks off, knocks his tube socks off, he's not getting traded. There's no intention to trade George Pickens. The only thing that he's going to do as GM is continue to take phone calls, because that's what GMs do. And if there's a team that just offers way more than you ever expected, then they might consider it, but it's got to be a lot for them.
Chris Arkwright says, you always talk about BPA, best player available. Well, what if the BPA isn't on your board? Do you take them? The BPA, all it means here is not who the general public's BPA is. It doesn't mean who Mel Kiper's or Todd McShay or any of these other guys' BPA is. It just means your own board. They don't engage. No teams. This isn't about the Steelers. No teams are sitting there going off of, hey, look, the guy on ESPN says we should take. No. They don't. There's not a central consensus scouting rankings for any of this. Okay, you have your own board. So as long as you have what do they go to, 100 or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers, their own board, because they know there's not going to be more than 100 of their own guys that end up getting taken.
Yeah.
And after that, they don't care. So it's not, do you take them? It's just, it's sitting there in front of you. You've already done. Mike Tomlin makes this point again and again and again and again. We've already done all the work by the time the draft starts. That's why one of the other more common questions that comes about is who gets the last say and how much pounding the fists on the table happens and whatever. It does, but not tonight and not tomorrow and not Saturday. They've already done all this. They've already done all the prep. To them, this part is actually, to an extent, anticlimactic.
Yep.
By comparison.
Yep. I really think that like movies like Draft Day and like anything else that you would possibly watch, like you imagine it to be way more over dramatized than it actually is. Like, I'm not saying that there's not tension or conversations had. There are. And I'm sure that if they get to 21 and they're not trading back and the top two guys on their board are literally right next to each other, I can see there being a discussion, but it's not going to be this one thing where Mike Tomlin's off in one corner pouting and Omar Khan's over in another corner pouting and Art Rooney's in a third corner over there pouting, and they're just not going to get along and not make a decision. It's not going to be like that.
No. Carol says, I can't imagine anyone the Steelers has time to watch or read what ESPN thinks, among others. It's not that they don't have the time. They couldn't care less.
They could not.
You have to understand one thing about these processes, and please keep this in mind as you go through the entire first round tonight. You're going to hear, whoa, so-and-so reached, so-and-so, wow, what an incredibly questionable pick that is. All 32 teams, even Cleveland, have more revenues, resources, humans, analytics, people who have interviewed so-and-so's third cousin to find out about character than any media company could ever have, no matter how big or small it happens to be. Each one of the 32 teams, each one of them has that. So what you're seeing what you see on the board is says, well, this is Mel Kiper's number 17 guy, and you see the Steelers take him at 21, and you go, wow, can't believe that guy fell. Maybe he's even worse than that.
Yeah. Now it's funny, but like somebody said an article came out the other day that states that many teams do look at Kiper's and McShay's mocks.
Was it written by Kiper or McShay? Give me a break.
It's not just okay. They try to. Let me try to think. Like, I'm not saying that they like don't read, but they don't use that as actual intel to be like, oh, Mel Kiper has so and so going to the Saints at 9. He has to be going there.
Let's look into that. Yeah.
No, it's not like that. It doesn't mean. Yeah,
Dave Shipley says it's going to be an interesting evening. Dave says that he's going to be watching the Buccos on a laptop for the draft. Pirates are playing tonight in Anaheim. They actually have a chance to sweep a team for the first time this season. They're facing the Angels out there. They've won a couple of games in a row. They've pitched really well.
Andrew Heaney, man. Jeez.
I don't even know what the Andrew Heaney thing is all about.
World Series champion Andrew Heaney.
Andrew Heaney's throwing 90-mile-an-hour fastballs right down Grant Street. Okay. And he is saying to the hitter, you see this? This is going to be a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, and it's coming right where you like it. And you're still not going to hit it for reasons that we have yet to totally figure out. Like, he must have some kind of crazy deception with that left arm or whatever. Buddy Ryan once said, if you listen to the fans, you'll be sitting up there with them. That's really good. Okay. Yeah. And actually what he could have thrown in there as well is reporters. If you're listening to the media or any other outside people, you're going to be sitting up there with them. It's just not how it goes. You have access to millions of dollars to put into your own team's process to study all of the football players of a given age on the planet,
You
should not be turning on your TV.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people within the organization, and some people very much higher up. Not one of them throughout this entire process has asked me, "What are you hearing, Chris?" Not one of them.
When it comes to this, no.
Not one of them.
They'll ask about other stuff, though.
They will ask about other stuff, but they're not saying.
But it's mostly going to be chatter and nothing to do with the draft. It's mostly to do with their own team, because they're not, as we were talking about on yesterday's show, getting super involved in the locker room and so forth. William says, "Hey DK and Chris, which players do you like who's not a quarterback in the 3rd and 4th round? Give me a 3rd rounder, Chris."
DJ Giddens, running back, Kansas State. I like him a lot. If he's there, I have a hard time passing on him at 83. He's a really good size. He has a lot of patience. He's new to the position, relatively new to the position, but his footwork seems natural. So there's not a lot of coaching him up is not going to be some Herculean task. And I already think Eddie Faulkner is already a good running backs coach to begin with. Has a good knack for what the way the Steelers want to run the football with wide zone, outside zone type stuff, but he can also do other things. I think it's a really, really good pick at 83. I think he's one of my favorites in that spot. 4th round, if he's there, Jamari Caldwell, Derek Harmon's teammate at Oregon, actual nose tackle. I'm interested. He's really interesting there.
The question that I have out of this, it's not on our live chat here, but the question about the 3rd round makes me think about this part as well. If you take a quarterback after the 4th round, hear me out here. Meaning, because let's just say that none of the picks change, and they're picking in the 1st, 3rd, 4th. If you take a quarterback after the 4th round, how seriously can that even be taken? Like, what are they doing there? Hey,
you're taking a flyer to see if he possibly just turns into something. You're completely using a draft pick. It's the same. It's almost the same mentality as with any other player that you take in the 5th or 6th or 7th round. If they turn into an actual starter that can become an actual player for you, phenomenal, great, home run. But you're also not going to be sweating or waking up at 2 a.m. like Omar said the other day at the press conference, waking up at 2 a.m. worrying about it if he doesn't turn into somebody either. Yeah,
that's part of it. I'm sure that's what motivates Slim to ask us. There's a possibility that the Steelers could walk away from the draft with no quarterback. I don't believe that. I don't believe you put in this much time and energy into all these interviews with all these guys and then say, and especially when you're still talking about Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson on a futures contract. Yeah. You have 2 NFL contracts that you still have to give out. And even if you are of the belief that Aaron Rodgers is going to sign one of those 2, there's still a real vacancy there.
Yep. Yeah.
A real vacancy.
I think taking a quarterback on day 3 at any point, that's rounds 4 through 7, is very, very likely. Especially if they don't take one, in the first or 3rd round. I would be shocked if they didn't take a quarterback at some point in this draft. And I think the 4 quarterbacks going into Latrobe will be, when all is said and done, will be Aaron Rodgers, Mason Rudolph, draft pick, and Skylar Thompson. I really do think that's going to be your 4 quarterbacks when training camp opens in July.
We're going to take a couple more today. I'm going to stick with draft-based questions here. Brick says, "What makes you think Pickens won't get traded? Genuinely curious and happy draft day." The first thing is that's what we're hearing. Okay, so it's not that much fueled by opinion.
Yeah.
The Steelers themselves are giving off very strong signs, both publicly and behind the scenes, that George isn't going anywhere. Okay, yep. They have the wide receivers that they want. Okay. Simple as that. Mike says, does what George Pickens did on social media impact? God, take that one, Chris. Does it impact what the Steelers think about? Go ahead.
Oh, this is not the first time that George Pickens has unfollowed the Steelers on Instagram. It's not news. Like, Oh man, when the Kenny Pickett stuff was going down, George Pickens unfollowed the Steelers, and I don't even know if he even followed them back. And even if he did, this is not the first time it's happened. So I'm sorry, I'm not trying. I won't even say names because I'm not like that. But a reporter who was even talking about this on social media and reporting on it on social media, then followed up by saying he unfollowed the Steelers on Instagram. That just goes to show that you're not here because this has happened before. Jeez. Oh, it's frustrating.
You guys made Chris mad.
Made Chris mad. Yeah, look at that. The boss points out he's sitting back in his chair and the whole deal here.
It's frustrating.
No, Mike wants to know if you're getting a first-round punter. The Steelers already have access at the punting position. Nice try, pal. Roman Wilson, who hasn't come up in at least 10 minutes, has unfollowed Bob Nutting on Instagram. No one's topping that one today.
Does Bob Nutting have an Instagram account?
No, he doesn't. But that makes the joke that much funnier.
But I know. But like, honestly, do you think Bob Nutting has even a burner Instagram account or just a burner social media account?
Yeah, and it would probably be like rnutting@pirates.com or something really, really clever like that. The last one comes from Slim. It says, "Hey fellas, do you think this is the hardest draft for the con artist as his time at GM?" I will say this: Omar, in general, has had himself quite the honeymoon period, and he has earned it to an extent. He has done some good things, and he has added some good young players at important positions. And he has been hailed for it. Now, he has been excessively hailed for some of it. But that's part of being new. And it's part of, all right, well, the other guy who was here for 100 years isn't there anymore. So we can breathe a little bit and fantasize that the next guy is going to be 100 times better. When in fact, Kevin Colbert was a very good Super Bowl winning GM. This is going to be a tough draft for everybody. I think that's the best answer that I can give to this. I don't think this is one of those that's so loaded that you can stack up your 7 picks, in one of those pretty graphics afterward, and everyone goes, "Oh my God, we got all those guys." I don't think it's going to be that. I don't think it's going to be that for anybody.
Yeah. Again, the one thing that I can try to give you some sort of solace, the last 2 years have not been the sexiest drafts. Offensive linemen in the first round, both years. I will say 5 picks in the first 2 rounds, and 4 of them were in the trenches. It's just, see, Bob says, in my opinion, if you trade a second for Metcalf before the draft even begins, you are already starting ahead of the curve. Yep.
Don't omit that. Somebody asked earlier, I don't remember who it was, who's that player that pushes you over the goal line or whatever? And the correct answer to that this offseason is DK Metcalf. Okay.
100%. Yeah. That's a really, really good point. That's the best way to view the Steelers not having a second round pick, is that they used it to get a receiver, and you're not having to guess what kind of receiver that's going to be because you already know. And that's the best kind of player you can possibly get, is one you already know about. But I forgot where I was going with that, but no,
Sorry.
it's no, you're good. No, it was a really, really good point, because people need to remember that, because if the Steelers stand pat, don't trade back, don't acquire any extra picks. I think they want to, but if they don't, and it is just chalk for them and they just use their 6 picks, some people might be like, "Oh, it's a disappointing draft" and everything like that. Again, that second round pick was used really, really well. Really well.
Last one comes from BM, who says, "If I didn't catch it, what time is the draft show starting tonight?" Gentlemen, we have no idea. No idea. They're going to make their pick, and then they have to come in, and Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan come in for interviews. We get that done, and then they put the player on this starfish-looking speakerphone, and everybody kind of huddles around it and says, "Hey, random dude, welcome to Pittsburgh," and then you ask some questions and whatever, and it's not going to be quick. It's not going to be quick, and it's absolutely not something that we can set a time on. if I had to guess, it would be like midnight.
It's going to be late.
Yeah, it's going to take some time.
Yeah, because it's not just going to be when the Steelers make their pick. It's like we do.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of work that we have to do.
There's stuff that's got to get done. So
yeah.
All right, Chris. Well, let's go get started on it.
Sounds good.
We'll see you guys later tonight. If you're a member, tomorrow, here regardless. DKPS.net/join. I feel like this is the last time we have to repeat this. Our goal is to get to 3,000 members. That goal is to get there by training camp in Latrobe. Our current number is about to be posted there by the boss.
1718.
1718, she says, and then she's typing it up, and we'll put it here on the ticker. 1718 is where our number is right now. For those of you who are keeping score with this stuff, for those of you, a lot of you came in as new members here. I'm going to rifle through these things. Alan Wood, Metal James, Steve came in, Mitch came in. Chris, you're new. You've been with us forever. You've been sitting at the uncle's table all this time, getting all these leftovers. Servant comes in. Matthew Ramsey comes in. Kevin comes in. Excuse me. Ryan is in. Simon is in. Jacob is in. Massive Man, who just might be the Steelers' pick tonight, is in. Joshua Benton is in. Bill, how about James coming in? Steve Goff. Ed is in. English Rick is in. Lewis is in. Tyler, Mike, Deemy, Matt Carpenter is in. Eric Keller, Jonathan Wynn. David Kranek is just celebrating his 22-month anniversary. Is it a word? Month anniversary? Barbara gifts one. David Kranek celebrates his month anniversary by giving out 5 gifts. Rick is in. Dick just popped into here to say, were they going to trade? They're not trading Pickens. This has to stop. Stephen is a new member. Austin is a new member. Cy came in and he gifted 5. David gifted 5 more because the first 5 weren't enough. Leo comes in as new. Jansen is new. Jerome gifted 10. That's appreciated. John gifted 5. Barber just kept coming in with single ones. He just keeps hitting the same button again. I think he's sitting on it, actually.
Thank you, Barber.
Thank you, Barber, she says, for sitting on the button. Jason came in with a $5 contribution. Stella's always good for double digits. Appreciate that. Richard Hunt gave 5. Slim, Barber. Troy is new. Mike is new. Chris gave 5. Kay Snyder is new. Drew is new. I told you there was a lot today, right? Jason just now showed up like before the end of the segment to make sure that he popped in. So did Rich Allen. Guys, we appreciate this. Our good friend, the Butthole, showed up. Oh, my God. The first time we read Butthole on the air, I just want you to know that you got what you were looking for here because you killed Chris. You slayed him down there in that silent box. Let's bring Chris back in right now to see that it works every single time. Look at him. Every single time the butthole thing works. It has no failure.
It's just because I don't expect to hear it on a YouTube show.
I mean, don't people like usually do that on YouTube?
Oh,
shows?
yeah.
Like, what's the okay.
We're talking about football. We're not talking about buttholes.
Well, I guess it depends on who we're talking about. Elaine gifted 5. Next Gen came in as new. Mike gifted 10. Tanner gifted 5. Eric gifted 1. This is still going on. We want to have a lot of you with us tonight. As late as it'll be, as ugly as it'll be, we're going to get it done. Now, the way this is, again, so we don't set any sort of false expectations for this. Chris and I will be at the facility tonight. We sit next to each other at this little DK Pittsburgh Sports desk that the Steelers have committed to us. And we do our work. We do our stuff. You can follow our live coverage on our app, on DK Pittsburgh Sports. And he's still going at it. Look at him. It's so sad. It's a third grade joke.
There's something in the chat that it cannot be put on. It cannot be put on the screen that I'm laughing at. I'll
Okay,
explain
okay.
after we get out of the show.
See, that's all I'm thinking, Beavis and Butthole, the whole time.
What you talking about, CJ?
No, I'm
Yeah.
not talking about that one. There's another one.
Oh yeah, no, we're not putting that up.
Nope. That's
Nor the video of the farting rhino. This is disintegrating.
it is.
We're disintegrating.
Completely, and right
Guys,
as we
have
hit the
work to do.
right as we hit the hour mark.
We have to put our serious work faces on. Listen, come back to us tonight, all you guys, members and everything else. Okay, come back to us tonight. Again, I'm hoping for around midnight. Okay, that's the objective. And if you don't see it live, you'll see it eventually. All right. See you guys.
No.